Planning, planning, planning. The 3 P's of community economic development. Planning, planning, planning.
Strategic planning as it relates to economic development really involves communities exploring 4 very simple questions. Where are we at? Or what have we got here? Secondly, where do we want to go? Thirdly, how do we get there? And finally, how do we know we've arrived?
In Ballarat, economic planning has happened as a part of a much wider community plan called Creating Our Future. It's divided into 3 main sections: existing conditions, trends and issues, and strategies. The important thing about the Ballarat approach has been the involvement of the community. It started with mass public meetings and informal gatherings, media coverage and individual reports from 90 selected community members with diverse backgrounds. The plan was launched in 1994 and has received a number of awards.
It's one of the hallmarks of what we've been doing has been very strongly community-based, bottom-up information, but local government playing a key role in facilitation. And I think that's one of the new dimensions for local government, is very much to work interactively with the community about the future, direction setting, vision setting for the community. And one of the benefits that comes from that is that people feel that they own local government. They're actually an integral part of it. And the second major thing is that we don't actually have to centralise all actions towards strategy implementation. The communities themselves are actively involved in implementation.
On a smaller scale, a good example of a community planning its own economic development is the Mallee town of Witchyproof. And although this is a rural community, the same principles would apply anywhere. As we have already mentioned, the closure of the menswear store in Witchyproof made locals realise that the town was in decline and something needed to be done. In August 1994, a meeting was organised to involve as many locals as possible in planning for the community's future in the year 2000. A small group of local leaders organised publicity for the meeting, which included the display of school students' posters depicting their vision of the town in the future. The publicity worked well, and more than 100 people attended the meeting at the Witchyproof Golf Club. Peter Kenyon led the proceedings.
I suppose that's the challenge that towns are starting to respond to. Not waiting for the cavalry or the hired guns to be sent from Canberra or from Melbourne.
Peter's introduction included setting some important ground rules and encouraging people to take a positive approach.
First thing I just ask is, as you come through the door, can you make sure you check in any old disputes, feuds and ideologies at the door? The second thing is, anything goes. Don't be afraid of new ideas, respect other people's opinions. And probably the most important, what tonight's on about, is trying to say, what do we want to see happen? Really trying to develop, not on the past, we can't do anything about the past, but we can do something about the present and the future.
The meeting divided into random groups, and the first thing was to list the community's strengths or advantages, its weaknesses and limitations, and then visions for the future. Spokespeople presented these results to the wider audience.
That we have more cultural activities to sort of broaden the experiences of our children. That we look at marketing our educational services, that we sort of can provide areas for Asian students to come here and learn and spend time at our schools. That we look at putting in an FM radio station for our youth. That we
You have a look at your sheet that you got when you came in. It talks about workshop number 2, the bottom half. And what it says is, in your groups, to initially brainstorm practical projects that you think could start to happen. I noticed when I asked people to give a list of characteristics.
Then use the unemployment funds to find someone that can do it for very little and get some work experience at the same time. Then approach some sign writer for a bulk deal to do the whole, say 10 shops, 8 shops.
In other towns, I don't know whether any farmers around here would be interesting, but you know, dividing your farm into small farmlets and selling them for sort of a little...
Yeah, but this has got to be 12 months, short-term stuff, all right?
I think we're going to get the whole one first, though, don't we?
Right, putting in farmlets.
Let's just very quickly just list them. Number 1, was a restaurant gallery. Number 2 is a town beautification, doing up the shopping area, heritage colours, signage, trees, that type of thing. Project number 3 is a farm machinery dealership, mechanic. It's a headhunting project, business project. Business number 4 is to redevelop the mount in the fauna park.
Then Peter employed a technique for getting people to identify which projects they felt most affinity with.
What I'm going to give you is $6,000, namely 6 dots. Where would you spend your money or your time? I want you to imagine each of these dots represent either $1,000 or 100 hours of your voluntary effort. Where would you use it?
This resulted in a list of projects that were graded in popularity according to the number of stickers.
So, at the top of the list is the lake, the chemist, road construction, the laundry linen project, and the machinery dealership. Those top 5 followed by town beautification, business development committee.
The final activity of the night identified people from the community who were willing to be project leaders, and then those who were prepared to have at least an initial involvement with the particular activity. A framework was in place and action was underway. Going back to the stages we first outlined, you can see that at Witchyproof, the group had addressed the first 3 questions. The 4th question, how do we know when we have arrived, refers to constantly monitoring and evaluating actions that are being undertaken. This might involve setting appropriate time frames, seeking community feedback, always trying to maintain community interest and support, and if necessary, occasionally refocusing on the direction in which you're going.
I think the successful communities are communities that identify what I call bite-sized projects. In other words, small, achievable things that everybody understands the role they can play in achieving them. They can understand the cost, they can understand the timing framework, and of course once those things are achieved, there's a sense of accomplishment that takes people on to the next ones. I think that's important.